Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jafar, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Nasir?
Very well, Jazakallah. It's early morning here in. So, Jafar, thank you for joining us. What I'd like to do in this conversation basically is to discuss with you Gulshan Farms and specifically about the business model that we have in order to raise the profits for our investors. Obviously, the context of the current discussion is that we are currently selling our remaining shares for the farm. And what I'd like to do in this half an hour, 35 minutes with you is pick your brain and try and put myself in the position of an investor and ask you some questions about basically how the business model works. So hopefully between the two of us, we've had lots of conversations with people and we'll be able to address some of those questions that might be sitting in the minds of our potential investors. So, first of all, foremost, just how's everything at the farm at the moment? What's the latest developments? What's been happening?
Okay, so at latest we are currently around at 350 animals. We have just started our new shed, which would house another 250 animals. Plus, we are making a feed store, which is about to finish. So and we are currently milking around 3,000 liters of milk every day.
Okay, very good.
That's the latest at the farm.
So, is 3,000 liters a lot?
Yes, it's a lot of milk, but we have a lot of animals to feed as well.
Okay, okay. So, explain to me how are those two things linked? So, are our animals individually producing more milk than an average animal in Pakistan?
Yes, obviously, they are exotic animals. They are imported from Australia, and their milking average is way higher than the local breeds. For example, Saibal cow, that's a breed in Pakistan that gives around 3,500 liters per lactation. And a Holstein is averaging around 10 to 12,000 liters per lactation.
Oh
So
wow,
that's a huge difference.
massive difference. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Huge difference.
And just a little bit
And
more.
the other questions, how
No, you go.
feeding animals and milking animals are linked. So obviously, we are in developing stage, and we have to reach a target of 1,000 animals milking. So unless we reach over there, our ratio of milking versus feeding animals will stay around 35 to 40%. But if we at a stage when we are achieving a target of milking animals and we are not growing, this ratio will raise to 65 to 70% milking and 30% dry animals. So the profit will be way higher.
So just slow down because even I don't understand half what you were just saying. So what's a dry animal?
Dry animal is animal either in a heifer stage. Heifer stage is when a new calf is born, and after 3 months it becomes a heifer, and we have growing heifers, or the animal which are dry, they are not giving milk. So we have to feed those animals as well, and they are
Okay,
not giving us any sort of milk or money revenue.
okay,
So we have to see the percentage, how much percentage of your farm is milking and how much is dry.
okay. So
So,
what? Yeah.
uh, in our practices, at least 38 to 39% of milking animals can feed other 60% of growing animals. But
Okay,
if we have to get into profitability, then we have to put a stop at our growth. And when our growth is stable, we are not growing anymore,
hmm,
then we'll take this ratios of milking animals versus dry animals goes up to 65 to 70% of milking animals, and we'll have 35 to 30% of dry animals. At that stage, we would be making a lot of profit from milk as well.
okay, fine, fine. So one of the revenues for the farm is going to be the milk sales itself. Um,
So, in general, when we say that we are running a dairy farm, the general thinking of people is that we are selling milk to
mm,
produce revenue.
mm,
But in other terms, we like to call ourselves as breeders of dairy cattle.
mm.
And what's happening is every year we are doubling our assets. So instead of just focusing on milk, We are primarily focused on breed and raising the cattle over here. So in the end, when we have achieved the target, we would have replacement heifers and extra heifers to sell to other farmers. So that will give us big revenue other than milk.
Okay, so we have two sources of income. One is milk sales, and the other is
Yes,
selling animals.
yes,
And our primary purpose on the farm is to get to a point where we're able to sell a sustainable amount of animals every single year.
yes.
Okay, fine. And just to stay on the milk for a few moments. So at the moment, obviously, we are selling milk, we're in profit, but our investors aren't getting any of that profit at the moment. Why?
Yes. So this year, it's the second year, we are just breaking even. And next year, if we would be in profit, and which we will be in profit, we won't be giving back the profits to our investors until the end of 2026 because we are in growing stage and we are developing. In next series, share videos of development with you. We have to make very robust sheds to house these animals, and all the profit which is made by animals is just going back into development of farm.
Oh, okay, fine, fine. So majority of the profit that's being made is going into to rebuilding building new sheds.
Yes. Yes, until unless we reach a target of housing these animals, which we will by the end of 2026. After that, our milking profits would start to come in.
Oh, okay, fine. So by 2026, the plan is if everything goes to plan, all of the sheds will be built at that point,
Yes,
and that will be enough to house the 1,000 milking
our
animals.
target, yeah, our target of 1,000 milking animals.
Okay, so after 2026, the money that's being raised from the milk, the profit will go back to the investors.
Yes,
Oh, okay, fine. And how I think you probably don't have the figures at hand, but do you know so from 26 onwards, what types of returns the investors can expect as a shareholder for per share?
I have to do the math to be precise, really,
Okay, fine, fine.
but milking revenue would start coming in.
Okay, fine. So 2026 milk, they'll start getting some returns, but the majority, the bulk of the shares will be coming in from 2029 onwards. Is that correct?
Yeah, the proper revenue dividends for our shareholders and ourselves would start coming in by the end of 2029 when yes, we'll reach a target of 1,000 milking animals, and we would have our uh, extra heifers and replacement heifers. Plus, we have to cull the animals. So, by selling all those animals, we will raise quite a lot of profit per shareholder. I'm looking. Our projections is about 10 to 15,000 US dollars per unit holder.
Okay, fine. So let's just make this very clear for people that are watching that don't know much about the farm. So we've got 1,000 milking animals, which we've reached our target. What do we,
Mhm.
so explain what you just said in little bit more detail. So how does that end up in how many animals are we selling every year at that point?
We would be selling around um, 300 animals per year to raise that revenue. Plus, we will have milk income as well. So, combined, both of these revenues, our shareholders will get the amount which I've stated, 10 to 15,000 in between, depending upon the market of milk, depending upon the market of animals. It can be 10,000, it can be in between 10 to 15,000, which would be, we will be giving out to our unit holders.
Okay, fine. And is that 10 to 15,000, is that pure profit or is that before expenditure, before any costs?
No, it's pure profit.
That's after all of your expenditures gone.
Yes. After all of our expenditures, after that, what we have to see at that stage, what's the taxation and what's the transfer rates to different countries, and that's the thing. Other than that, farm expenses would be met.
Okay, fine. And how are you meeting those farm expenses?
Obviously, by milking.
Okay, so that's so the extra profit they're getting from the milk is but the farm's sustainability is reliant on the actual milk sales.
Obviously, it's a dairy farm, so we have to sustain on milk income. but all the profit from milk income plus selling of these animals will give us a lot of revenue.
Okay, so we're going to be selling these 300 animals. What's the demand for these animals? Like, how are investors confident that we're going to sell these animals?
Okay, so demand of dairy animals in Pakistan is really high. This year, almost three ships are coming to Pakistan. A ship of 2,200 animals, a ship of 1,400 animals, and another ship of 1,400 animals. So you can see people are over here importing animals from Australia, from America. So we have around full demand of 5 to 6,000 dairy animals every year. Plus, obviously, all those animals which are being traded in Pakistan and not being imported that had to be counted and said. So, in my rough estimation, every year the premium exotic dairy animals around 10 to 15,000 are being sold or traded in Pakistan. So we just have to sell 300. So that's a very small ratio comparatively.
And why would people prefer to buy from you as opposed to buying it from Australia or doing what they're currently doing? Why would they buy it from you?
Yes, people prefer to buy from Pakistan if they have hands on really good animals because these animals. Okay, so when a farmer buy animals from Pakistan, those animals which are grown over here, they are already climatized with the weather in Pakistan.
Mm,
Plus, they have all the vaccination records and all the vaccine have been done over here while they're growing. In
okay.
Australia, there's different sort of vaccinations going on. In Pakistan, there's different vaccination programs going on. So our animals over here, plus the breeding which we are doing, depending on the genomic data of these animals, our animals as are either good or at par with any Australian farm animals.
Okay. And obviously, it would seem obvious then that they would get a better price in that they're not having to pay the shipping costs of bringing an animal over from Australia. They're saving that money as well.
Uh, no, technically the price is based on the US dollars price in of Australian animals or American animals, and these prices of cattle are basically driven from the import price animals in Pakistan, and usually these animals are a little bit expensive than the import animals because, as I told you, they're already climatized, they're
Right.
born over here, and they have done their vaccination, so all those costs are added as well.
Okay. So how much are these animals going to be sold for approximately?
My estimate, look, last year the premium animal was around 4,500 US dollars. This
Right.
year it's around 3,500 US dollars. But obviously, China has started buying internationally, the prices are going up. So, what we have estimated is on a really low value, we place the value for around 3,000 US dollars, pregnant heifer, which is already below the market. So these numbers which I'm giving you are based on very conservative figures.
Oh, okay. So the projections of a 10 to 15,000 dollars profit is based on the assumption that
Mhm.
you're selling for $3,000.
Yes, it can obviously go up that year, go below that year, but it will vary around every year.
And but he's in the last 2 to 3 years, maybe a bit longer, in your experience, what has the price? What's the lowest it's got to, and what's the highest it's got to?
Highest is 5,400 in the last 4 years, and lowest import animals in last 4 to 5 years were around 3,500 US dollars per animal.
Oh, okay, fine, fine. And why is everything in USD? Like one of the worries I know investors have investing in Pakistan is that the rupee is extremely devalued and they worry about their money going from pounds into rupees. So can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Okay, so the animals traded over here are based, the values are based on US dollars as the animal is being imported over here. So the market is set by the price of animals which an importer is giving for these exotic animals. So what happens is, for example, the international animals which are coming into Pakistan are 4,000 US dollars that year. So we'll set the price accordingly in PKR. And the US dollars, which are coming into Pakistan, are $3,000 US dollars that year. So we'll set the price accordingly in PKR. And the Obviously, we don't pay each other in USD over here, but obviously then we can convert that back into US dollars.
Okay. All right. So everything's discussed in USD because the international market works in USD.
Yes, which we have at the farm. There are only quite a few farms in Pakistan that are doing genomic breeding. Our animals, if they're not being sold in Pakistan or the market is down in Pakistan, we can obviously sell it to China and other Gulf countries as well, because these animals are, as I told you, at par or better than Australian animals, and our breeding pattern is way good. And we are doing all the genomic testing. All the breeding is done accordingly to the genomic testing. We already get the bulls which we use are genomically tested. Plus, we get every year we get newer bulls. We use the same bulls which are being used currently in America or Australia.
And why are Australian animals better? Like, why not just buy animals in Pakistan? Like, why are they better?
Because they have worked on their breeds. And it depends. Look, America is doing the same. US is doing the same. US cattle, dairy cattle, is basically more driven on their breeding is more driven on milk instead of longevity. But Australian animals suit Pakistani environment because they work on longevity. They don't work their breeding pattern doesn't work on milk, and milk. They do milk breed longevity.
Okay.
So they select those bulls which have higher longevity plus wider chests. So it depends what sort of animal you want to create. We have so
Okay.
many options.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. And are they for interested shareholders then? So we've spoken about the sale of milk. You mentioned in terms of the market then with it, there's clearly a massive demand for these animals in the Pakistani market. You also touched upon the fact that China might be a buyer, America might be a buyer. What's the international market like for buying these animals?
Dairy demand is rising day by day in our sort of countries, not in Europe. Europe, the dairy demand is going below. Okay, so if at the current moment, our markets, the subcontinent plus Gulf and China, they're doing a lot of buying and our population is growing. We have a huge milk demand. On the other hand, European milk demand is basically decreasing. If you have seen, and the dairy production over there is decreasing as well due to uh, the carbon footprint by the European Union. A farm cannot, for example, Norway, a farm cannot be more than 300 animals.
Okay.
So if the production over there is decreasing and farming is not done anymore, we'll have a very big and huge market for cheese production and butter, ghee, and all the byproducts of milk to export to European countries.
Okay, that's interesting. So we haven't spoken about that. So is that included? Are those byproducts something that you're planning to do? Is that something you're doing? You're going to do?
No, we are not doing and we haven't planned to do at the moment, but it really depends on the market. So, for example, we have reached a target of milking animals by 2029. Then we'll see where is the more profit. So slowly we'll go towards that side.
Okay. And
Obviously,
will
we'll brand our own milk. We will make cheese. We will go into byproducts. We'll make whey powder. We'll make ghee, butter. But all those things are done once you have reached target of your milking animals.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. And will
We
our
we have to put a stop on the growth to do all those things.
okay. And will our investors who are currently obviously buying a share in the farm, and it's worth saying at this point that we are selling 21 shares remaining. Majority of our shares have been sold in the last investment round. Um,
Yes.
they're currently being sold for $40,000 per share, which gives people one share. What we're calling a share basically is a unit of shares
Yeah.
that affords the people 1% ownership of everything in Gulshan Farms, including all of its assets and all of its infrastructure and all future projects. Is that correct?
Yes. Basically, it's called a unit. A unit we are selling it consists of 250 shares.
Mm-hmm.
So the share value $400. So if we multiply, no, not $400. Let me calculate. Uh, so obviously, we are selling it for $40,000 divided by 250. That would be per share value.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we are doing now.
And so we're looking to sell 250 shares at $40,000 to an individual. And what will that share give them in terms of ownership?
Everything what Gulshan Farm owns would be owned by our shareholders.
Okay. So I would, for example, if I had one share, I would own 1% of all the animals, 1%.
If
What
you have
else?
one unit, then yeah, if you'll have one unit, uh, you'll hold 1% of the company and whatever company owns, infrastructure, land, animals, assets, everything.
Okay. And what about like, I know Gulshan Farms has a contract with Genetics Australia, and we have a sister company called Gulshan Genetics. Does the shareholder also have part ownership of that?
Yes, genetics, yes, because we invested the money from Gulshan Farms. Any other future products, if all the shareholders agree and put in the money from the profits which it generate, and we start a project, for example, branding our own milk, that will obviously require funds. And once we have the dividends coming in 2029, we can propose, for example, we have to brand an own milk and we need this much amount of budget for this. And if we agree on making our own brand and fund that brand through our profits, then obviously it's owned by Gulshan Farms.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. And also, obviously, the dairy, if we were to go into dairy, it would be the same dynamic. You would go to the investors and say, there's an opportunity available. Do people want to reinvest some of their money back into this new project? And if they wish to, then obviously, as a group of shareholders, they can do that.
Obviously, yeah, obviously, whenever we'll, because there's so many connected string to a dairy farm, like I told you, we can go into cheese making. So cheese making is really expensive because we have to hold that cheese up to a year to age it.
Okay. Okay.
So obviously, if we are holding that cheese, we're not selling milk. So we need the funds to do that. But if we do that, we are just speaking in a context that if we do that, our profits will go up later on.
Hmm. And I know we've spoken privately about the fact that actually the hardest stage in this journey is what we're doing right now, building a dairy farm, because all other types of farming and everything as an ancillary projects, they're actually much easier than what we're currently doing.
Obviously, uh, the growing stage is the difficult because we have got sheds, we have to face shortages of fund, we have to breed the animals on time. Once everything is set, we have our growth stopped. We don't have to do any construction. We don't have to worry about because all the systems would be in place till then. Because we would be only focused on running the farm instead of developing it. We can focus on all other things as well.
Mm. Okay, all right. And then last few questions, just before we wrap up, inshallah, is what are the risks then to this model? It sounds like a very exciting, very simple model. We're just going to sell milk to run the farm. We're going to sell the animals every year after 29, share the profits. What are the potential risks?
But the biggest risk is that we lose the animals. We can lose the animals by different sort of diseases, different sort of attacks on animals through different viruses. We do our best to vaccine this animals. We have biosecurity program. No one can enter around in the farm without going through that proper system. But obviously, the biggest risk is a virus comes, a pandemic comes, and we lose all our animals. So for that, we are doing is we are keeping milking animals at one farm, at one location, and our growers or calves at another location, which is obviously 5 to 10 kilometers away from this main farm. But uh, we try to do everything which we can. But this is the biggest risk of dairy farming, that we can lose animals. But as I told you, we have a proper vaccination program. We have biosecurity program. We have veterinarians on board. Our veterinarian team is very good. Plus, we have two farms, two different locations to mitigate the risk. Plus, we have animal insurance. So these all factors basically are to mitigate this risk. This is the biggest risk.
And the animal insurance, how does that work?
Yes, we didn't have it before. We are just getting the quotes. Animal insurance basically now they are being offered by different sort of banks and different insurance companies. That if an animal dies, they'll give us a replacement animal, or they'll give us the money.
Okay, all right. And obviously, it only makes sense to pay that if the risk is high enough.
Yes, technically, no one does it, not as compared to if there are 100,000 farms in Pakistan, only one person could do it. But we are looking into it and we are planning to do it. But there is a natural insurance. As I told you, we have replacement heifers which come in and they are placed on another farm, another
Yeah,
location.
yeah.
So if something happens at one location, other location is secure.
And if you try and quantify that risk, then, because obviously, if that were to happen, that would be devastating for the farm. It would basically crush the farm. Um, Historically, has that happened in Pakistan?
No, the last outbreak was of lumpy skin disease in Pakistan, and it did kill animals, but not that the whole farms are vanishing. For example, if a farm has 10,000 animals or 5,000 animals, 60 animals, 70 animals,
Okay,
but obviously when we are doing farming, we are importing the vaccines and we are in talks with international doctors and veterinarians as well. So in Pakistan, we get the vaccines really, really quick and just start doing that thing. Since then, we are doing the lumpy vaccine as well.
okay, all right, fantastic. So it's not it is a risk, but we obviously the farm's doing everything it can to reduce that risk. And historically, there hasn't been
Yes.
massive big examples of where that has really happened anyway.
No, until unless you are not doing the vaccinations and
Yeah.
you don't have a biosecurity system at your farm that uh, you let the farm open to everyone and you're not worrying about the diseases coming in or viruses coming in, you can risk your farm. But if you are doing proper vaccinations every year on time plus biosecurity, then we can mitigate this risk and we never really think about it anymore.
Okay, fantastic. So
We
then
are
the
on
next
it.
question, sorry,
Uh, yes.
the next question is less from we've got investors. $40,000 is what we're asking for a share, which is obviously depending on
Mhm.
your circumstances. It's for a lot of people a considerable amount of money. Um, how would you argue that this is a good investment compared to alternatives? Some people might be thinking about buying a property with that, even though that's quite difficult in this day and age in the UK. Other people might be thinking about other businesses, stock market. But why is the farm a better investment for them?
Number one, the returns which we are going to give out to our shareholders and which are projected are way higher than any other returns you can see in the market. Uh, you are investing, you are getting a unit for 40,000 and which consists of 250 shares. And you're getting a return of 10 to 15,000 US dollars every year consistently. So the return percentage is more than 30%. Plus the farm assets are going to grow. This year it's 40,000 per unit. Next year it would be 50, and few years after it would be at 2029. I'm thinking the estimations are of our share price. The unit price would go up to 80 to 100 US dollars per share per unit holder. So that's a huge profit over there as well. So
That's
technically,
very
what you can do is invest now.
Hmm.
2029, sell half of those shares, half of the, just keep the half unit. So you'll get your money out, plus you'll get half of those profits every year for free.
I mean, that is very interesting because so what we're basically saying is that as an investor at this point of $40,000, you're getting you're going to be getting the dividend income that's going to be coming to them every year. But on top of that, the actual share is going to be going up in value like a property would go up in value over a number of years. Your share is actually going up in value. But the question
Yes,
then would
obviously, we
be,
are growing their assets.
why is that? Why is that happening? Why will it be worth $100,000 at that point?
Obviously, we will be growing our assets, plus the property value, the construction value will go up as well. Our main the dairy is our animal. So at the moment, as I told you, we are around 350 animals. By the end of this financial year, we'll be around 450 animals. So 100 animals multiplied by 3,500 US dollars. That's an asset which we have grown.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So that's one of the beauties of the farm is a property will never give birth to another property, but animals will naturally over the years they'll become multiple animals.
Yes. So once we are at 1,000 milking, which means we'll have around 1,700 to 1,800 animals. Just do the calculation, multiply it by the lowest amount, 3,500 US dollars, and you'll get a rough figure of the animal asset which we have at the farm.
So if we had
Other than the goodwill and
6,300,000 at that point.
yeah, and just divide it by 100.
So that would be $63,000 just based upon the value of the animals.
Yes, that's just animals. No milking revenues, no goodwill, no structure, infrastructure
Mm,
value, no
yeah.
land value, nothing.
But I mean, the alternative way to look at this is if in 2029 I own a share and I wanted to sell that share and I came to anybody and I said, buy this share off me, this unit of shares for $100,000 because immediately every year you're going to get a return of ten to $15,000. That would that
Yes,
every and you'd be stupid not to buy that because no you're getting an immediate 10 to 15% return on investment and nothing's going to match that at that point. So it'd be quite easy to sell, I think.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So when we started selling our shares at first, there was a risk of the farm running properly. We can do it or not. But now it's all over here. We are running, we're growing at a very fast pace. Uh, you have been through the journey with us, and our shareholders who bought at first, they have seen the growth. So now it's risk free, at least for in my eyes.
That's interesting. So basically, we're saying to people, this is not an idea anymore. It's not like 2 or 3 years ago where we had a few animals and people like myself invested when it was much more precarious idea. Now we're an established farm.
Yes, yes. Now we are established and we are going towards becoming a corporate daily.
Okay, so in that sense, people should realize that they're investing in something which is established. It's gone past a lot of its initial hurdles, which are the most scary times for a farm, and they're really investing in a really stable model.
Obviously. So
Okay,
we have been through the phase of danger and sort of new business. So we are established dairy farm, and we are running all the things by book. Plus, we are growing at a very pace, and we are meeting our targets.
fantastic. Okay, Jafar, I think that's probably as much as we needed to cover in this session. I'm sure people will have other questions. If people, so we're gonna, if people watch this video and they have questions in their minds, please share this with us on the comment section, and we'll try and address these in future videos. Jafar, I think this has been really helpful. I think we'll try and do this more regularly now in order just to give people an idea that we really need to grow a community of people that know what Gulshan Farms is doing. They realize this is really valuable work that people can join us on this journey. But I think this has been helpful. We'll have another session hopefully in the next few days where we'll take another topic and we'll discuss it together so people can start to learn about these things. If anybody's interested in investing, I only expect for these shares to be sold in the next month, 2 months. So if you're interested and you want to have a conversation with myself, with Jafar, then please visit the website. It's gulshanfarms.com. There's all the information you need will be on there. And then there's an opportunity for you to book a one-to-one consultation through the calendar, and then we'll be in touch and we can start this conversation. Thank you so much, Jafar. Anything else you want to say just before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Thank you very much. We'll do this probably soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. All the best for today. Assalamu alaikum.
All right. Thank you.